very be very careful. I'm starting a Docker. Docker क्या है? Already everybody is aware that, right? Anybody, any question? What is a Docker? Can you and anybody can explain that what is a Docker?
Docker is a software that is used for uh, containerization of your applications. So you can use it anywhere and everywhere if you have
Hmm,
Docker software installed on your machine.
good. I want to explain Docker architecture. Let's see this diagram, and it is a very important diagram. And understand, try to understand this. I will share this right now, but don't open. I will not share right now. Otherwise, people will open and see. Listen, first of all, see, we have a three major components are there. One, it is a client. One, it is a host. It is called a server. Docker client, Docker server, and Docker registry. We have seen that, right? Docker client version, Docker server version, and registry will see that Docker hub. Okay, we will see that later on. But understand that what is a Docker client? Docker client contains some client means what? Can interact with this to the main server. Client means it is a mediated to interact with the actual server. So if we are firing any kind of command into the Docker, means with the help of Docker client we can communicate. So if we are you are able you when you have seen that, right? uh, Kasif has opened that terminal. That terminal, it is called a client. With the help of terminal, we will fire any command to the server. Okay, so that terminal, it is a called. When you have to install Docker file, by default it will install a client and server both. Okay, and with the help of client, we can interact with that server. So just now Tasif has hit one command docker info into the Docker client, and he will get all the information of client and all the information of server. He is getting everything, every information in the screen. So with the help of Docker client only, and we will not interact with the Docker server. Okay, so Docker client, how many operation we can perform? We can perform Docker build, Docker pull, Docker run. So these kind of operation we can perform. I can explain each and everything, but understand that Docker, it is an interface. With the help of this Docker client, we can interact with the Docker server. Okay, and Docker server has the responsibility to create create a containers and images. And if it is a created images will push into that Docker registry. I will explain, but understand that if we are creating anything like with the help of Docker client will interact with the daemon, and Docker daemon, it is a responsibility to share that request to the Docker server. Okay, so we will not directly interact with anyone. With the Docker daemon, we can interact with the Docker client and Docker server. So if we fire any command, the request goes to the daemon, and Docker daemon will interact with the Docker server, and Docker server will take a request, and as per the request, they will create whether it is a container or whether it is the images. And if it is a created images, that images will send to the Docker hub, means Docker registry. Okay, so I am creating one. So it is, what is it is? It is an architecture of Docker. Now I will paste this. You can guys read that each and everything, then you can understand that. But for the time being, you will copy and paste it in your laptop. Otherwise, when I will close this meeting, it will gone. So see, Docker file, I will explain that. It contains instruction to build the Docker image. I will explain that later on. But first, Docker image. Docker image, it is a package which contains the code and dependency. And Docker registry, it is a repo. It is a repository to store the Docker image. And Docker container, it is a runtime process which runs the applications. So understand that it is architecture. You have to read this architecture here only. Okay. Generally in interview, might they will ask that, okay, what is a Docker architecture? So you can say that uh, Docker client, Docker host. Docker host means Docker server, and Docker repository. Three major components are there, and it contains Docker client perform these kind of operations. Docker server will perform these kind of operation with the help of Docker daemons, and with the client and server will interact with the Docker daemon, and Docker daemon will also interact with the Docker registry. So daemon means what? Daemon, it is a backend process which is responsible to perform tasks internally. So you have to read this. Okay, so if anybody interview, in an interview, people will ask that what is a Docker architecture. You have to be explained these many concept. Anybody, any question till now? I believe no. Okay, you have it, theoretical part, you can read it. And now I'm going to explain Docker. Okay, be very careful. Docker. So first of all, it is a client, it is a server, and it is a repository. Okay, understand this. First of all, I already told that Docker Hub, create a account in Docker Hub, right? So how it is interact? Whatever command we have to fire, right? We have to fire, and it will interact with the Docker server, and Docker server will create that as per the request of the Docker client. And if a Docker server contains what? Docker server contains container and images. And if anything it is there, it is suppose only Docker Hub will contains only images. Okay, listen very carefully. Other container images also stored here, but main container it is running here. But images, final image will go from Docker server to Docker Hub. Docker Hub only store images. Okay, listen very carefully. it store only images only. Apart from that, nothing it will store. It is a public, okay? Docker Hub, it is a public repository, and it is a store only images. And whatever command we are firing, right, with the help of Docker client, we can fire, and on the server, it will create the resources like a Docker container, and Docker images. It will contain it will create it into the Docker server. And if images it is ready, final image, suppose you have created some image, you have to test it, and it is okay, like it is okay to this, you have created a final image, that image need to be pushed into here, okay? Anybody any doubt till now? I believe no. Okay, so I'm going to proceed with the way of working, how to work into this. Suppose it is my VM, okay? Understand very carefully. And this is my Docker Hub. The Docker Hub contains only what? Images. Images means, I will tell you, operating system and dependencies. Images means what? Images means dependencies and operating system. So suppose you want to start your Docker journey from the starting. So what you will do? You have to install Docker software, okay, into the VM. Like suppose I have installed, this is a VM, I have installed Docker, and with the Docker info, you will get that info, that what is the version of server, what is the version of client, and you have opened a terminal, and terminal it is Docker client. It is denoted as the Docker client, and Docker client, with the help of Docker client, you will perform any kind of operations. So first of all, what happened before starting, right? It is the first project. If you want to, how you have to prove that? You needed images first of all. If you want to perform anything, right, into the Docker, you need images. Without images, you can't do anything into the Docker. First of all, you have to pull. You have to pull these images. What you have to do? You have to be pull these images. रुको, listen. Okay, leave it. So I want to create this. Consider that this is the Docker Hub. So what happened? I want to push this images into the VM. Okay, in our my machine. So here, what I have to perform? Pulling the image. I have to pull this image. Okay, and what happened with this images? We have to be create a containers. Listen very carefully. Without image, we can't create anything. So here, in this case, what need to be do? we have to be create images, and then we have to be create our container. Container means what? Container means our VM, local VM, where we can run our applications. For understanding purpose, I am saying that images, VMs. It is not a VM, it is a container. But understand that it is a machine where we can deploy our applications. So here, containers. Okay. And into the containers, suppose I want to add anything else also. Suppose I want to modify this containers. XYZ, you have to add a more dependency, you have to install something else, you have to perform some operations. Okay. And some new container, it is updated with the loaded of some other of software, some other dependency, some other something. And you feel that it is a needed for the all environment, like a all dev environment or something. So what should you do? You should be created images from this container. So it is a possible, yes, it is a possible image to container and container to image. It is a possible. So what you have to do? Again, you have to be create, build. You can here creation for the image creation. It is called a build. Okay. So I'm saying that it is a build, but you can understand that it is a creation of image. Okay. I'm explaining images. So again, so you have pulled your images from the Docker hub, right? And then what happened with this image, with this images, you have created a containers. And suppose you on certain of point you have understand that is you are looking this container in every environment, similar kind of. So what happened? You have to create this create images on this container. So again, what happened? Images you have to create it, and because it is a new, right? Previous version it is a v1. Suppose it is a v1, and it is you, and you feel that some updation it is there when you are working on, and later on analyze that yes, you are needed some upgraded version, and this is the right version to deploy into the every environment. Okay. So what happen? You have converted the container into the images, and this image you can also push from your local VMs to the Docker Hub. It is also possible. Okay. It is also possible. So whatever you have a created, it calls customize images. It is called customize images. So you have to push this images into from your local machine to Docker Hub. So what you exact, I am repeating again. Docker Hub contains only images. When you are starting your application, means Docker journey. So what you will do? Install a Docker into that VMs, and with the help of Docker info, you will see that server and client with the terminal. We will consider that it is a terminal. It is a Docker client. You have to fire this command like what? Docker docker pull if you will perform, right? It is a I have provided some command, right? It is a docker pull and specific images. Suppose xyz images are there. I'm considering an nginx nginx images are there. Nginx, it is a web page kind of. Nginx I have downloaded, so you are getting this nginx, and into the nginx you have with the help of nginx you are creating a containers, and you after creating a containers you have done some modification into it, and you have containers, right? You have container. If you want to convert into the images, it is also possible. You have to convert these containers into the images, and these images, if you want to push into the Docker hub, right, it is also possible, right? So these are the working structure, working you can say process in Docker hub. The whole summary are there. If you want to here, if you want to convert into uh, if you want to create a container, right, container run command, commands are there. I mean, suppose if you want to create a container with the help of images, container run command, it is there. If you want to pull your images, Docker pull, it is there. If you want to push your images, Docker push images are there. If you want to convert your containers into images, it is possible, and that Docker builds, with the help of Docker build, you can create your images. So these are the commands are there. I will we will I can teach you step by, but till now, if you have any doubt, please ask.
But I have